Thank you.
And
Well, so I'm fine with it going as an email, and I'm in a
Okay.
Zoom meeting. I should get back.
and we that's Don confirming his presence here. He acknowledged that he's in a Zoom meeting. So with that, I will let's see, roll call. Oh, I'll entertain a motion now to approve the agenda. Are there any amendments that folks would like to make to the agenda? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion by Landsberg.
Stallard seconds.
Moved by Landsberg, second by Stallard. Any discussion on the matter?
No.
All in favor? Oh, well, sorry, apologies. I will call the roll for a vote. I will go with Landsberg. How do you vote?
Aye.
Stallard?
Aye.
And Lee?
Aye.
And Arnold votes aye. So we have ourselves an agenda. Next up is public comment. This is an opportunity for a member of the public to speak on an item not on the agenda. Do we have any general public commenters here?
This is Michelle. I have not received any public comment emails.
Got it.
This time.
Okay. So with that, I'll close general public comment. That moves us to agency business, which item 1 is our consent items. There's 3 of them, 2 sets of minutes and the treasurer's report. Are there any items that folks would like to see removed from the consent calendar and discussed further? Or absent that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Stallard moves adoption of the consent calendar.
Lee will second.
Moved by Stallard, seconded by Lee. Assuming there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote. Landsberg, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Stallard, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
And Arnold votes aye. So the consent item passes unanimously. That moves us on to item 2, the Woodland-Davis Clean Water Agency General Manager Update and Operations Update. And I believe that's the slides that are up on the screen now. So I'll turn it over to Tim, I believe.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. I'm Tim Bush, General Manager for the agency. I'm also covering the operations side today as Stan. Stan is not available today to join us. One of the 5 things to talk about today, some of them are not new, most of them are not new. One is new is that we did receive yesterday our WAPA electrical supply agreement. This is something that we had actually applied for back in May of 2018. I went back and checked. This is for additional electrical supply from WAPA beginning in year 2025. So this will likely be a board item for adoption or for approval of the contract at the January meeting. We just got the contract yesterday. I think most of you are familiar. The joint intake facility is powered by WAPA Power. It's a through Bureau of Reclamation, Department of Energy. It's basically hydropower in Western states. Much lower electricity cost than PG&E has. So when the opportunity came up a couple of years ago to apply for additional electrical supply, we asked for 2 things. One, for the ability to have our own meter at the joint intake facility. Right now, we have 1 meter and we split the bill with RD 2035 every month. It would be a lot easier if we each had our own meter. So we were able to do that with this agreement. And then we also got some power for the regional water treatment plant. We asked for full power. They did not quite give us that, but it's, if I recall correctly, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25–30% of our total power needs there will be powered by WAPA starting in 2025, pending approval of the agreement. So we're reviewing the agreement now, and that should come back to the board in January. The other items are erosion control improvements over the joint intake. This is a project we've been talking about for some time. AWIA update, the emergency response plan has been submitted, and where we are with the water supply risk and alternative evaluation. Joint intake erosion control improvements. We have been working on permitting for this really since November, December of last year. We finally got our last permit yesterday. It's taken quite a long time to get permits. We had initially asked the resource agencies that this should be covered as a maintenance activity. Basically, we're just fixing some erosion on the levee slope. They had told us no, that we needed to do full permitting, and it's really taken until yesterday to get the permits completed. Design was completed some time ago. We are working with RD 2035 to contract for this work. Given that they're responsible for 80% of the cost, we're 20. We're working with RD 2035 to actually be the contracting agency. We have been working with a contractor to get a quote. He's apparently more busy now, and we have a second quote from a contractor, was a bit higher than what we were expecting. So now we're back trying to work with the first contractor again to see if we can get this work done this fall. There is a time restriction. We do have to have the work completed by November 1 because that's the official start of flood season, and we're not allowed to work on levees past November 1. Could be earlier than that if we get some rains. So it's possible that this work will slip till next year on account of being middle of September now, and we have roughly 6 weeks. It's only about a week's worth of work, but it's just a matter of getting in there and getting it done now that we finally got all of the permits. The next one is the AWIA Emergency Response Plan. This is something we've been working on since December. It is a 2018 federal law through the EPA that requires all water utilities in the country, I think that serve more than 3,000 customers, to prepare both a risk and resiliency plan. Ours was completed and submitted back in March. The second step was the emergency response plan due at the end of this month. We actually signed and certified that a couple days ago, that we're done with that work. The next step is to look to see whether or not, we already had an existing emergency response plan. Do we need to make any changes to that based on this EPA assessment that we just completed? It doesn't look like there's much that we'll actually have to do with that. This is one that had, I think it was something like $50,000 a day penalty if we didn't get it done on time. So we made sure that we got it done in time, and we got acknowledgement back from EPA to that effect. Next up is update on the water supply risk and alternatives evaluation. It's something we have been working on, looking to have a draft report ready for review in November. We have also started having discussions with something like 5 water agencies for both short and long-term water supply options. We do have a closed session item later that will touch on this. But really the short summary is that in summer months, when we're looking to simply augment supply, it's relatively easy to buy water, especially on an annual basis, contract-wise. November and December are much harder. Most of the water rights are geared around irrigation season, which is generally the summer months. But there are a few agencies that do have water supply available for both summer and winter. So there are some options available to us. Should we get farther along and get to actual negotiations for either a short-term agreement or a long-term agreement, we will engage the board probably in a special meeting whenever that may come up. Onto operations. Right now, the water plant's running generally a little over 21 million gallons per day, pretty evenly split between Woodland and UC Davis and Davis combined. We are working on our CVP water rate. I just sent the information out to everyone yesterday, I believe it was, that we are on track to basically using our 10,000 acre feet of water right around the end of October, which has been our plan to do this. We are on track. We continue to meet all water supply requirements, and the diversion quantities are on the agency's website. And we are, for us anyways, it's the Shasta normal year. I did include a graph on this page that kind of shows term 91. This is about the time of year that I really start looking at the term 91 graph and see where we are and when term 91 may eventually end. The state has actually simplified this graph a little bit, that now it's more intuitive as to what it means. So the kind of red color on top, whenever the blue jagged line is in the red section, it means that they're releasing supplemental flows from the dams to meet water quality objectives, which means term 91 is in effect. And then when it's in the blue, it means there's enough natural flow, it's not in effect. But they don't always change it whenever it crosses the line. The red vertical line indicates when term 91 curtailment started this year. This year was June 5. The trend has been down recently, but I kind of expect that as rice is harvested and then the farmers go to reflood the rice field for rice decomposition, flows, it will go further into the red. Just like if you look far to the left, the October and November numbers were higher for rice reflooding primarily. That could all change if it rains. If it rains, it goes down into the blue and term 91 may end. But our expectation is that we'll continue in term 91 really until we start getting some rainfall this fall.
Okay, Tim, so you sent us something yesterday showing that we've used probably 55, 60% of one of our rights.
Yep.
Do you project us having sufficient water remaining in the rights to get us through the term 91 period?
Through October 31. So one thing that we did in June, we knew that term 91 was coming a little bit ahead of time. And when we actually got the term 91 start date, we took the water rights and that the water right amount. And fortunately, the Shasta critical year was rescinded, so we have the full 10,000 acre feet. And each of the agency partners has their section of that 10,000 acre feet of water. And what we did is we divided that for every day between June 5 until October 31. And the water plant is actually set to not exceed that quantity on any given day to the project partners to make sure that the water right stretches through October 31.
So if we go, what happens after October 31?
After October 31, if term 91 is still in effect, we do not have access to either of our two water rights.
So are we buying West Sac water this year or a right to it?
We are working on that, yes.
Thank you.
That is actually in the closed session item for later on today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a risk that we have, and that's from the alternative study that we're working on. It has been identified through looking at the past 100 or so years of data that there is a risk that in November and December, or at least part of that time, about 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 annual chance of having a curtailment at least part of those 2 months. That's kind of been our highest focus area in terms of reducing that risk on a long-term basis.
Okay.
Any other questions so far? Okay, onto the joint intake. There are a few projects that we need to work on over the joint intake in addition to the erosion control repair. The crane that's on the joint intake side, and I think we mentioned this in previous board meeting, is that the crane itself does not have the ability to pull the southernmost screen. So we've been working with our design team, with West Yost and with CH2M on finding a remedy to that. How do we have access to the screen? We do need to be able to pull the screen to clean it and also to replace it in the event it were to become damaged. The next item is we do not have a safe way to access the roof. There's a ladder from the floor to the ceiling. There's a way to get onto the roof once you get there, but there's kind of a gap going through the roof that a person kind of has to kind of fling themselves onto the roof without a safety climb device. It's kind of a thing that was missed a bit in design, that it's not quite a safe roof access. Working for a solution to that is in design right now and how to fix that issue. We don't need to get onto the roof a lot, but there is some equipment up there that people should have safe access to it. Both of these items are a cost split per the agreement, 80% RD 2035 and 20% to the agency. There are two items related to the pipeline to the city of Davis, the finished water pipeline. These are not new items, but they're kind of roughly new that we're getting into them. So east of the pipeline to Davis is land owned by the city of Woodland. It is leased to Pacific Coast producers. Something that came up about a year or so after construction completed is that there started to appear some seepage onto the field that PCP leases from the city. The reason why that's happening is just to the west of Davis's pipeline is Conway's Highland Irrigation Canal. That's, I don't know, maybe like 5 feet above ground elevation. We put the pipe to the city of Davis, is trenched into the ground. There has kind of a slurry backfill, so there's a bit of a difference of material between the pipe trench material and the native soil. What can happen sometimes, especially when you have water up above it, is that water will find its path around that trench section between the difference of materials and then show up someplace else. There is also a irrigation culvert that really is not used, but it does connect the Highland Irrigation Canal to the field. So we did some digging last week to try to find out why do we have this seepage appear for the last couple of years during irrigation season. And it turns out that that's exactly what's happening. There is some seepage from the canal that's found its way to the pipe trench and is also traveling along the outside of the irrigation pipe, basically between the pipe and the soil. There's another way that water can find itself a conduit. It made itself a conduit and is now kind of putting some water into the field. So it's something that we're working with Conway to fix. It's a relatively simple fix. Basically, we just stop the seepage and it'll go away. And that'll happen probably sometime this fall after the irrigation canal is dewatered. They should be dewatering that probably in the next week or two now that irrigation season is ending. The other item is there's a damage to an irrigation pipe in County Road 103. It actually crosses County Road 103 perpendicularly. This was damaged during construction of the pipeline itself. It was probably backfill or damaged during backfill. The pipe was replaced. We verified it was replaced during construction, but maybe during backfill, something happened to it. The farmer had not had a need to use that pipe for several years. This spring, he went to go use it and found out that it had been crushed. So we're working with getting a contractor on board to simply dig down to this one spot, fix the pipe, and then move on. Any questions on those? Okay, moving on. So this is a picture of the seepage on PCP property. Kind of the big circle in the middle is it's an air relief valve that we have for the pipeline. And a little bit behind that, top and a little bit to the right, you can see a little blue flag. And then there's some blue paint on the ground. That is actually the agency's pipeline to Davis. Immediately to the left of that, you can kind of see that the dirt is darker. That's actually seepage. And then a little bit further top left, you can actually see some open water. It's not a huge problem, but it is a nuisance to PCP. So we're working on getting that fixed for them before next irrigation season starts. And that concludes the agency updates.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? Hearing none. Thank you, Tim, for that update. That'll here's something. No. Okay, so that'll move us on to item 3, which is up here in front of us. The discussion regarding solar panels at the water treatment facility. Tim, is that you again?
Yes. Yeah, this is there's not an actual board action for this item. It's more to solicit input and see what your thoughts are on the item. So the agency did look into providing solar power at the water treatment plant back during design of the plant itself. At that time, Terra Verde did the report. We have that report, and the recommendation was, sure, we should do it. It was kind of marginally effective economically. The decision at that time was to kind of stop, focus on building the water treatment plant, get that done, and then revisit solar power later on. So now we're back to later on. We're back to operations. So and there's also been some changes in the solar industry that probably make it more economically feasible. For reference, at the water treatment plant, we spend in summer months something like $140,000 a month in electricity. So it may well be in our interest to find a way to reduce that a bit. Although it is a little bit more complicated now with WAPA power coming in for part of the water treatment plant supply. That will change the economic analysis a bit.
Can I interrupt, Tim?
Yes.
You said 140,000 a month for electricity?
Yes.
And help me understand, you went kind of quickly over the WAPA item before. Are we entitled to a certain amount of subsidized electricity from them to reduce our costs? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. In the WAPA power agreement that we just received yesterday, we had applied for 2,300 megawatts per year. We were approved for 1,431 megawatts per year for both the joint intake and the water treatment plant.
And we have to pay for it, but it's at a subsidized rate or a low rate. Is that it?
Yeah, it's something like they have a different rate structure. It's tied directly to how much hydropower is being produced that day. So it's almost like the rate changes daily, but in aggregate, it's something like 40% less than what PG&E rate is.
Have we had any WAPA power to this point?
Yes. Yeah, the intake has been powered under WAPA power since the beginning.
Okay.
So we'll all have the ability to get some at the water treatment plant, but not, I think it's around 25% or something is what we'll get there.
Has any study been done to see what size of array we would need to do the job?
Yeah, back in 2014, 2013, Terra Verde looked at that for the agency.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a report on that. I don't know what's changed now in terms of solar panels. I know there's been a lot of changes in that industry. I don't know if efficiency has changed. I'm sure electricity rates are higher now. So it would probably behoove us to have kind of a fresh look at that.
I would think so.
So,
Tim, I have a question on the power.
Go ahead, Rich.
The discussion is that we look at a PPA. Why not just purchase an array? What's the advantage of a PPA besides the capital costs and not just buying our own?
yeah, we could,
Maintenance also.
yeah,
So
maintenance.
the reason why the university is, the full University of California generally tends to do PPAs instead of owning outright is well, first of all, it's other people's money for first time cost. And also because of the maintenance. So we don't maintain, we are merely off takers for the electricity. And that in general has proven to be economically very advantageous.
And it's something we can include in an RFP. Well, I think the next steps for us would be to prepare a request for proposals and go out and solicit quotes from various providers. And it's something we could include in that is an analysis, what makes sense for the agency, buy our own or do a PPA. City of Woodland also has PPAs for all of our facilities. I think we have 5 in total, and they're all under various PPA agreements. This seems to be the way most of them are done, but if we don't have to, and we can look at it both ways.
Thank you, Tim. Looking at it both ways, but I think would be something we should consider for the future, since this project we expect to be around for the next 50 years at least. Let's take a look at what it would cost versus the cost of renting the equipment.
A lot of times, for example, the really large array that we have at UC Davis, the 16.3 megawatts, which is ginormous, 62 acres of solar. The way we structured the deal was we have an opportunity to buy after 7 years, and then it comes to us after 20 years. So there are ways to structure the power purchase agreement that you end up with the panels. Now, whether you want them 20 years in, because they've obviously degraded and so forth, it's a question to ask, but there are some ways to structure it. And Tim, I just heard back from colleagues with some examples that I can provide to you after the call.
Good, thank you.
People got back to me today, finally.
So, with regard to next steps or what you want from us today, are you looking for some direction from the board in terms of what options to look into, and then bring those back to us?
Yeah, some direction from the board, which options to look into. In terms of schedule, we would probably, now we're getting close to holidays again, probably wouldn't try to come back to the board with an actual contract with anybody until probably April. Because it would take some time to do an RFP, meet with these providers, get some ideas from them, probably report back to the board in January, and then probably try to get something in place by April meeting. It's kind of what I'm thinking, kind of loosely in terms of schedule anyways.
Do my fellow board members think that sounds like a prudent approach?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, Brett, you have anything? We've had our fun experiences with solar in Davis recently.
Yeah, the idea of how to move forward sounds good to me.
Okay, is that enough direction for you, Tim, or do you want something more formal in terms?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you for your work on this and for the work to come.
All right, thank you.
So that brings us to item number 4, which is the long-range board calendar. It's the final page of the agenda packet. It would appear that our next meeting will be the 21st of January. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, unless there's a need for a special meeting before that for a water purchase agreement.
Got it. Okay. So we'll you'll reach out to us as we approach that possibility, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, this does in fact appear to, before we adjourn to, oh, sorry. Well, I'll kick off board member comments by saying that it would appear that in fact this is Brett's final meeting, definitely as a member of this body. And so I'll start the comments by thanking Brett for his years of service to the JPA, but of course he was also a member of the City Council many years ago, newly elected member of the City Council, in fact, when the City of Davis went through its water wars to even get us to be a part of this project, and was instrumental in bringing this project to where it is today. So thank you, Brett, for your service in that regard as well.
So I'll just point out that Will and I worked together on the Yes campaign, and as some of you may recall, it was a fairly close election.
Yeah.
And I think the Davis contingent definitely gave Dr. Marble a few extra gray hairs, and our Woodland partners some extra gray hairs.
Yeah.
Although we were optimistic about being successful, and I will. Well, I appreciate your comments, Will, and I'm guessing some other board members will make some comments too. But this has been a really good experience for me, and I know much more about our water systems, and I feel very fortunate that Davis and Woodland have teamed up together to have this project happen. I think for both of our communities, it's something that for decades to come, we will, be very happy that we've been able to do this.
I'd like to join Will in commending you, Brett. I mean, you held things together in some real deep water in your community, no pun intended. We were apoplectic in Woodland for a period of time there. And as you know, we decided we're going to go forward and do this one way or another. It had to be by ourselves. But clearly, it's been a blessing to both of our communities that we were able to go forward together. And most of us have been involved in campaigns for measures, and they're a lot of work, and it takes a lot of patience, a lot of willingness to interact with others. So thank you for that Yes campaign, and you've left a real legacy for your community. Thank you.
UC Davis will second that.
I'll third.
And I think Yolo County would like to make it unanimous. Brett, you've been a wonderful collaborator in this agency and in every other aspect of your work as a city council member. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness, your balance, your creativity, and your willingness to take a step back and look at the bigger picture at every turn. So thank you for your service on this particular board, because this one is truly a hallmark of the YOLO way, a collaboration between the two communities in a way that no one could have imagined, and we created it, and it's wonderful. So thanks, Brett.
Oh, sure. Well, Don, I think you deserve a lot of credit for actually getting us to where we are. I mean, you did a lot of the heavy lifting when you were on the city council and involved, and so all the success was built upon the work of the people who went before us, and you were one of those main people, Don. So thank you for doing that. I guess I do have one ask. If there's ever T-shirts printed up, or polo shirts with the the logo, if you remember me and let me pay my $20 to purchase one, that would be great.
What are you, a large or an XO?
I think I'm more of a medium,
really?
large or something.
Boy,
yeah.
you're in good shape. I haven't been a medium for a while.
I remember wasn't there some kind of a commemorative toilet seat that was that was the wastewater treatment plant. I get those confused all the time.
Yeah, water in, water out. Okay, are there other comments from board members on any other items? Yeah, Tom?
I just want to welcome Michelle Mitchell.
Oh, no,
she's on camera. She's our brand new support staff. I want to wish her all the best going forward. She's got pretty good shoes to fill. Lynn, I noticed, was hovering in the background there. She's off camera right now, but Lynn's done a great job for us, always right there with anything we needed. So we're grateful to you, Lynn, for what you've done. And your, I would say your concluding coup de grace is to train Michelle to be good just like you have for us. So thank you, Lynn, and welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Tom.
Agreed. Welcome and thank you.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Any other comments?
I'm trying to unmute Lynn Ann, but oh, here I can do it now. Okay.
She's just gonna holler from the sidelines. That works too. There she is.
That's the symbol that you're leaving. You cut off your microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm unmuted now. Thank you very much. This is Lynn Ann.
Thank you so much, Lynn Ann, for
Yeah,
all of your
thank you,
service
Lynn
over
Ann.
the years,
Here.
and welcome again, Michelle.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If that's all for comments, then I will adjourn our open session regular meeting. Do we anticipate that there will be any reportable items coming from closed session?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so I will adjourn the open session. Is there anything technical that we need to do to move to closed session, or can it be on the same Zoom?
It's on the same Zoom.
Okay.
There,
We'll delete it.
we will delete the recording of the closed session at the end of
Very
it.
good.
And there's
You
no
could
members of public on the call. So
you can also pause the recording and stop it for now, and then resume at the end if you wish to do so.
all right, I'll do that. Thank you very much, Camille.
Got the idea? All right, we're back in open session, only to adjourn. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Lee.
I see Lee motion. And
Virgil second.
I see Rich second. The mute button is not allowing Tom, but he was enthusiastic about this motion too.
And let the record show that Brett Lee's final motion was to adjourn the last meeting.
Yeah. Good. Well, with that, then we're adjourned. So thank you, and we will see most of you in January, and potentially before. This may not be Brett's last dance.
Thanks again.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Yeah, like I said, keep me in
Thank
mind for
you.
a T-shirt if once they're ever printed.
Swag. Yeah. Water bottles. All right. See you guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Tim, oh. Okay, stop the recording, right? Stop the recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to stop cloud
Yeah,
recording?
you and the
Yes.
cloud recording. Yes.